Detective, I'm showing you Mr. Williams' number 70, and I'm asking Mr. Kokomo if he can to focus in on the album cover or the mixtape cover. You see that?
I do.
And you remember talking about that last week before, right when we were leaving court before the jury.
I do.
And in that, you recognize that there's an eagle. It's fair to say, skull of an eagle.
Sure.
And there's a image of a snake going through the eye socket of an eagle. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And when you looked at that, without any question posed, you made it known to me, and I asked you to make it known to the jurors, that that was gang paraphernalia or gang message. Remember all that?
I don't believe that was consistent with my testimony.
You didn't tell this jury last week that there's another item on Mr. Williams 70 that is gang related?
That is not consistent with what my testimony was.
Well, when you told me that, hey, on number 70, I'd like to talk about that image, why did you do that?
So my testimony was that this was of note to I and other investigators at the time when this album was released. And the reason for that was not because we were trying to use it to get Mr. Williams. We were concerned that this imagery would be recognized by rivals as something insulting to them and may stoke the violence in a gang war that at that point we would have been investigating for almost 3 years. So at that time, it was of note to us, along with similar imagery that we saw both from other members of YSL and rivals on the other side, making similar imagery in reverse.
The jurors will recall what you said, but do you deny telling the jurors that you believed that that was done for a gang message?
Again, my testimony was specifically that this was of note to us as investigators for the potential message that it was going to send to rivals and the potential to reignite a gang war that had been going on for quite some time at this point.
Now, you realized at the time of telling the jurors on that album cover or mixtape cover, you realized that Future, his symbol is an eagle, right?
I'm familiar with the Freebandz logo, yes.
And it's an eagle, right?
It is.
And are you familiar with Jeffrey Williams and Future doing other mixtape releases?
Objection, Your Honor. Assuming things not.
A standing objection.
I'm not assuming anything. Are you familiar with Mr. Williams and Future doing other mixtape albums is the question, sir. I'm not assuming anything in evidence.
I am familiar with them doing other work together, yes.
I couldn't. Okay, you said yes. Okay, and are you familiar with the artwork on other mixed tapes of Mr. Williams and Future?
I'm not.
Did you ever bother to look at whether on other mixtapes there's a snake and an eagle on the covers?
No, we weren't investigating album covers as crimes. Again, we were concerned about the imagery on this album cover when we saw it because of its potential to be perceived a certain way by their enemies and its potential, in our minds, of leading to violence that we would then have to investigate.
So, do you have any evidence to tell this jury that Jeffrey Williams had any authority or input into that album cover that's on Mr. Williams number 70?
Again, we did not investigate an album cover.
So what is the answer? That my question is different. Do you have any evidence today, any day, that Mr. Williams had any involvement, authority, input into the album cover that's shown on the screen, Mr. Williams number 70?
No, and as I've said, we were not investigating the album cover or Mr. Williams' relationship with the album cover. We were investigating its possibility to inspire violence from rivals who may have seen in it what we were concerned may have been in it.
So you look at Mr. Williams number 70, what's on the screen, that artwork, and what you get out of it is that can somehow stoke a gang violence. That's what I hear you say. Is that true?
That is not consistent with my testimony that it was of note to us as investigators, who I think would not be doing our duty if we didn't see that and prepare ourselves to interdict or mitigate potential gang violence in response to this image. Especially given context outside of this, of what we saw after this from rival gang members and even other members of YSL using this same imagery in their own posts.
So you take, without any evidence, you take this artwork and somehow you put Mr. Williams involved with this artwork, stoking, whatever your word was, gang violence.
Objection on this characterization of the testimony.
I stand corrected. Objection.
Without any information that Mr. Williams is at all involved with even thinking about some gang or YSL as a gang. That's what you focused on when you saw the album thing. Objective, that Mr. Williams
Objection,
had,
counsel is testifying.
I stand the objection. Mr. Steele, don't testify, please.
without any information that Mr. Williams had any input in Mr. Williams number 7, the album cover, the mixtape cover.
Mischaracterization and speculation.
It is speculation, Mr. Steele. I stand the objection.
Your view of this case comes from your vision, right? That's fair to say?
I'm not even sure what that means.
You understand this case the way your brain tells you to, right? Let's say everybody.
I mean, in the sense that every thought that I have comes through my brain, sure, but I was not the only person that investigated this case, and a lot of the information from the case didn't only come from me or from my coworkers, but also from interviews with rival gang members, third parties not involved directly in the conflict, members of the gang itself. We have quite a bit of information from victims and witnesses and all manner of people that were involved in all aspects of this investigation.
But gang members and victims and witnesses part of this investigation, do any of them have any clue as to who birthed the artwork in Mr. Williams number 70 on Super Slimey mixtape?
No, I didn't ask that question, but unfortunately it doesn't really matter who birthed it. This image and its potential to lead to retaliatory violence was something we would have to deal with and mitigate, and so it was of note to us as investigators.
But don't you understand from what you're saying, you are taking an object that has nothing to do with any YSL gang.
Objection, Your Honor, that's mischaracterization. Counsel is testifying.
I stand the objection.
Do you find it problematic in your role as an investigator, a gang investigator, that you're taking a piece of Mr. Williams number 70, that image, and you are portraying it as somehow involving a gang? Does that bother you?
Objection, Your Honor. It's not relevant if it bothers me.
I stand in questions to form.
All right. Let me ask you this. Is it fair to say that it didn't matter to you or your fellow investigators or the prosecution why or how the artwork came out? Is that what you're saying?
Objection, Your Honor. Mischaracterization.
Stand.
Ask and answer at
I
this
stand
point.
the objection.
All right. Let me ask you this. With regards to this album cover, except how you took it and how you perceived other gang members took it, you did no investigation into how that was created. Is that true?
We had no reason to investigate how it was created, and so we did not.